Hi, my name is Sam and I am in New York City for this weekend. I need to take a taxi back to my hotel. The taxi driver said that there is a $2.60 drop charge applied simply for entering the vehicle, even if I don't go anywhere. It will also cost $2.70 per mile. I need to take a 3-mile trip back to my hotel. Will you help me make a piecewise function to figure out how much it will cost? Pause the video now and create the piecewise function for the taxi prices before we solve it together. Are you ready? Let's solve it together now. So to start off, this is the information that we were given by Sam, so this is just the written part of the problem. Okay, so to start off as well, we can solve this problem without even using a piecewise function. And to do so, if you look on the screen, we can start off with $2.60 plus $2.70 times x. X in this case would be our miles traveled, which would be 3. And in total, for Sam to make a 3-mile trip, our total would come out to be $10.70. Now, to put this into a piecewise format, we would start off with f of x, which is our function, and do our little prong. And our first prong of the function would be $2.60 if x was equal to 0, because as we were told, there was a $2.60 drop fee even for entering the vehicle. And then our second prong would be $2.60 plus $2.70 x, x being our miles traveled in this case, if x was greater than 0. So if we take the second prong from our piecewise function, you can see that using the 3 miles for x, we would get the same amount it would take to take a 3-mile trip. Which again would be $10.70 for a round trip of 3 miles. So now to graph our piecewise function. You see at the top we have our piecewise function rewritten, and then we have our x and y variables. In this case, x would be the miles traveled, which would range from 0 to 5. And then if we plug in 0 through 5 for our piecewise function in our piecewise function, you would get our y value, which would be the cost of the trip. So 0 miles would be $2.60, 1 mile would be $5.30, 2 miles would be $8, 3 miles would be $10.70, 4 miles would be $13.40, and 5 miles would be $16.10. So as I said earlier, the x value would be how many miles were traveled, and the y value would be the cost in dollars. So as we graph, It's quite easy because you just take your x value and your y value that corresponds with the x value and plot it. And since this function is continuous, there is not a break in between the two subfunctions. We would use a closed circle because we would use a closed circle at x is equal to 0. And as well, we could not use a negative cost value. So we're going to get rid of that. And then we're done.
Hi, my name is Bailey and I am a lifeguard at a hotel pool this summer. I am paid $7 per hour under normal conditions, but if I work more than 40 hours in 1 week, I am paid an overtime rate of 1.5 times my hourly wage for each extra hour. Last week, I worked 45 hours. Can you help me determine how much my paycheck will be? Please pause the video now and write the piecewise function for Bailey's wage before we solve the problem together. Are you ready? Let's solve it together now. Here is the written form of the piecewise function that Bailey explained. So when Bailey is paid $7 per hour, what her equation would be is $7 times x, where x is the number of hours worked, and that is only though if x is less than or equal to 40 hours. However, for each hour over 40, she gets paid the overtime wage. So let's calculate her overtime wage for each hour over 40. It'd be 7 times 1.5 times x number of hours. And that would equal $10.50 times x number of hours over 40. So we already have the first subfunction solved for all of her hours under 40, but let's solve for the second subfunction. What you'd have to do is have 40 hours times $7, because that would be her normal wage, and then you'd also have to add $10.50 times each number of hour over 40. So you would do x, the number of hours, minus 40 hours. And then you would multiply this out and simplify. So it would equal $280 plus $10.50 times x minus 40 hours times $10.50. Farther simplified, that would be $280 minus $420 plus $10.50 times x number of hours. So the second subfunction would be $10.50 times x minus $140 if x is greater than 40. So we are going to go on to the next page and write the two piecewise subfunctions in the correct format. So f of x, which is the function, and then you would draw the brackets to indicate that both subfunctions are part of the main function. And you would write our now two subfunctions. The first one is $7 times x if x is less than or equal to 40. And this would be her normal hourly wage. And then the second one would be $10.50 times X minus $140. And this would be her wage if she works more than 40 hours in 1 week. So now we are going to solve for f of 45, which would be how much money she would be paid if she works 45 hours. And because 45 is greater than 40, you'd use the second subfunction, and you'd multiply $10.50 times 45 hours and then subtract $140. And this equals a total of $332.50. So finally, we are going to graph her wage equation. So at the top, we have the piecewise function that we just solved, and the x values are the number of hours worked, and the y values are her total earnings. So for the first 40 hours, you just have $7 times x, and then for the 40, every hour over 40, you use the second subfunction and solve for those dollar amounts. Now we are going to plot the x and y values on the graph. Since you can't have a negative number of hours worked, the first hour, all the values are positive. And also, because this function is continuous, there will not be a break between the two subfunctions. It will just be a continuous line. So now that we have finished plotting all of the x and y values, we are going to draw the equation, or draw a line between the plots, and the black and green lines indicate the two different subfunctions. So the green line will be up to 40 hours, and then the black line will be over 40 hours. And we will draw an arrow at the end of the black line to indicate that this function continues even after 60 hours that we have plotted. And that is it.
This video was brought to you by Sydney Smith
And Makenna Berry.
in correspondence with Tri-County Technical College.